Hey everyone, and welcome to chapter 15 of the miraculous fanfiction, A Glitch in the System. Here is the part after the cliffhanger, and I hope you enjoy.
So you're saying you decided to remember when you found out I was Adrian?
He said bitterly, not knowing how he should feel. He couldn't help but feel used and betrayed. He was ever so hurt by this newfound information.
So, just because I'm Adrian Agreste is why I haven't been tossed aside, knowing none the wiser?
He spat angrily. Ladybug knew that there was a risk in telling him, which is why she wasn't surprised by her heart as it was breaking.
I know. I'm not proud of this, Cat Noir, and I know how selfish it is of me, but I just have to remember that you're Adrian,
she said. Cat turned away from her. He was pondering in his thoughts. Why did him being Adrian Agreste suddenly change her plan entirely?
Is that why you're acting so strangely? Because I'm Adrian?
He spat. What did she want? His money? His fame? Was she just a fan of Adrian's? But when it came to Cat Noir, she had been ever so bitter recently. His ears drooped down further.
Would you have just cast me aside if I was someone else?
He whispered sadly. Ladybug's eyes widened at his question. She didn't answer for a moment.
Answer me! Damn it!
He said as his eyes began to water.
Tell me why? Why now are you showing any interest in me? Why do you care that I'm Adrian?
He cried angrily.
Adrian, please, I can explain if you let me.
Ladybug croaked in an almost whispered tone. Cat Noir froze, his mind overflowing with negative thoughts. Ladybug had lied to him. The girl he had trusted more than anyone else in the world had betrayed him. She had taken his fragile heart and stomped all over it. Ladybug clasped Cat's wrist.
Kitty, please!
She begged as her heart raced. Anxiety was filling up in her lungs. She was struggling to breathe clearly. Her hand was coldly brushed away by the clawed hand. Ladybug's eyes were full of tears. How could she have been so selfish? She should have just been honest with Cat from the beginning, and that everything was Master Suhan's idea. At least then he wouldn't hate her. But then, if she did that, she wouldn't have known that the cat stood in front of her was in fact her crush, Adrian Agreste. Oh, how Ladybug had dreamed of Adrian for the longest time, ever since the beginning of the school year. Never in a million years would she have thought that he was also the annoying Cat Noir. Ladybug wondered if she should tell him the truth. Should she tell him that she does in fact love Cat Noir too?
Cat Noir.
Ladybug groped, almost too quietly to be heard. Cat Noir wouldn't turn to look at her. He couldn't bring himself to do so. This girl had made him feel awful. Never in his life had Adrian felt so betrayed by someone.
I should go,
he said coldly. Ladybug's eyes widened in horror. No, he couldn't leave yet. Not while he was still angry and not knowing the full truth.
No, Cat, please wait!
Ladybug screamed as her partner leapt off into the night. Ladybug's legs gave way and she was smacked onto the floor of the Eiffel Tower. her bluebell eyes pouring with tears. Her heart was broken. She had made her kitty hate her. Cat Noir! Ladybug cried. My kitty! My buttercup! She whispered. Je t'aime. Ladybug said as she stood herself back on her wobbly feet and zipped back towards her bakery. Since this chapter is really short, I'm going to add the next one with it. So now you'll have chapter 16. So enjoy. When Ladybug had reached her home, she immediately detransformed and threw herself onto her bed, ignoring Tiki despite her stubbornness. Marinette's heart was shattered. She couldn't believe what she had done. Why did any part of her think that Cat Noir would be happy with the truth? Especially when the truth was that the only reason she wanted to remember his identity was because he was her school crush. Her conversation with Cat Noir replayed in her mind as she tried to drift off to sleep. When Cat Noir arrived back to his mansion, he flung himself through his window without any cares for his safety and immediately detransformed. Plag, having witnessed the scene, was very worried for his blonde holder. Adrian walked over to the bathroom and immediately slammed the door so that there wouldn't be any time for his small floaty companion to squeeze through. Adrian turned on the shower and got in. Once he was certain the water was strong enough, he cried. Tears were harshly slapping against his cheeks as his heart panged from the pain. How could Ladybug lie to him? And why did she only care now that she knew his identity? His green eyes were flooding with tears. Despite the water being loud, the tiny cat could hear everything from the shower and his ears drooped. Plag loved Adrian dearly, so it hurt him that he was feeling so broken. The next morning, Marinette's alarm went off for the 5th time, and again she clicked snooze, much to Tiki's annoyance.
Marinette, you need to get to school,
she squeaked out.
No, I need sleep. I can't go, Tiki.
Marinette groaned sleepily. Tiki rolled her eyes.
School is important. You can't miss it,
she said patiently.
No, I can't go. I can't face Adrian,
Marinette continued. Tiki frowned. She did feel sorry for Marinette, but knew that despite her current state, that Marinette really needed to attend her classes.
Marinette, everything is okay. Adrian doesn't even know that you're Ladybug,
Tiki exclaimed. Marinette groaned and sat up.
Ugh, fine,
she sourly remarked. Meanwhile, Adrian was awoken by his father's assistant knocking at his bedroom door. Adrian, she started. Breakfast will be ready in 10 minutes, so please get up and be ready, she said, nodding with a small hint of emotion. Adrian groaned. Ugh. He didn't feel like going to school today. He didn't feel like doing anything today. All Adrian wanted to do was to stay in his bed and sulk. Adrian didn't respond to Natalie as he normally would. He didn't have any energy left. Plag noticed that his holder was still in bed.
Adrian, come on, kid. Get up.
he said. Adrian groaned again.
Ugh. What's the point?
He said bitterly. Black flew over to Adrian and tugged the covers away from his palms.
The point is to get me my cheese and then you can go to school.
Black jeered. Adrian rolled his eyes.
Yeah.
He sat up and went to ready himself for the day. So no one's confused, we have like a time skip here. Marinette was walking up the school steps when suddenly she slipped and fell backwards.
Whoa!
She cried out as she was flung backwards. Adrian was walking up the stairs at the time, and then he noticed that Marinette had slipped, and without any hesitation, Adrian rushed and caught her, and then held her securely within his arms. Despite his current mental state, Adrian always had time for Marinette. After all, she was probably his dearest friend. Marinette was startled when she felt a pair of arms securely stuck to her waist.
Everything okay?
The old familiar voice echoed. Marinette dotted her eyes to the floor.
Yeah, everything is bananas. No, I mean everything is broken. No, I mean everything is great.
Marinette shouted as her anxiety again was overflowing her mind. Adrian was slightly startled by her change of tone and confused by her words, which was usually what happened anyway. He gently let go of Marinette.
Thanks!
She yelled as she bolted up the steps and into the school. Adrian was left stunned. Marinette scampered over to her seat. However, Nino was already in place next to Alia. Marinette froze. Why today? Why did Alia have to play the good bestie role right now? Alia shot Marinette a huge grin and mouthed, "You're welcome, bestie. And now you can sit with Adrian and give me all the deets later, Kay?" Marinette put a thumbs up in response, despite her being on the verge of another meltdown. Everything would be fine, right as long as Adrian didn't notice anything about her, like being off, or as long as he didn't find out that she was the liar ladybug. Marinette stumbled over to Nino's usual seat and hesitantly plucked herself down. She was beyond terrified for class. Adrian walked in, and when he noticed Marinette sat in the chair beside his, he couldn't help but smile. Who was a better friend to sit with than Marinette? Not that Adrian didn't love Nino, he just loved to spend time with Marinette.
Hey, Marinette.
Adrian chirped as he sat down. Marinette wouldn't look up from the desk.
Hello.
She replied almost too coldly. Adrian noticed her behavior, and his smile was revoked. Had he done something to upset her? He wondered worriedly. Did she not feel comfortable sitting next to him? Had he been accidentally rude to her again? It was then that Adrian remembered. Marinette had told Adrian while he was Cat Noir that her crush was none other than Adrian the Aggress. And that was him. Adrian's face heated up at the memory. He wondered if that's why Marinette was acting so off. He felt weird that he knew her crush, and she didn't know he actually knew about it. He felt bad for it because how could she know that he was secretly Cat Noir?
I take it Nino wanted some alone time with Alia?
Adrian asked in a hushed tone, as to not startle the raven-haired girl, slumped by his side. Marinette forced a smile.
Yep.
She said quickly. Adrian was confused by Marinette. She was normally strange around him, but this was different. Adrian looked over at her. He noticed her eyes looked puffy and bloodshot, her face was slightly pale, and she looked as though she hadn't gotten much sleep.
Marinette,
Adrian said. Marinette hesitated for a moment before making herself look at him. It became more clear to Adrian that something was definitely wrong.
Is everything okay?
He said worriedly. Marinette laughed.
Of course! Everything is just awful. I mean, everything is great.
Adrian wasn't convinced, but before he could question any further, Marinette shot up out of her seat and ran into the hallway. Adrian felt the urge to follow her, and so he did. He also stood up from his chair and jogged out of the classroom. He noticed that Marinette was in the corner of the hallway, her head tucked into her knees, and he could hear her muffled sobs. Adrian frowned. Something was wrong, but what was it? Who would have made Marinette this upset? Adrian slumped himself down next to her. Marinette was startled by the noise and her head flew up, pigtails swaying as she did. Marinette then noticed Adrian sat beside her, and he was staring right at her, worry etched all over his face. Marinette turned red as she shot her head back down. Adrian was saddened. He saw that Marinette's mascara had run down her cheeks. Without hesitation, Adrian wrapped his arms around her and pulled Marinette over his shoulder. Thanks so much for listening to chapters 15 and 16. I hope that you enjoyed, and I'm sorry that I'm not very good at making crying noises or anything. Well, it's like 4:15 for me, and I'm recording this, so by 4:15 I mean like in the morning, so I have to be really quiet and stuff. I only film like this late because like that's when it's quiet in my house, but I'm gonna have to start filming earlier soon, like if I get a job or when I go to college and stuff, so yeah. Anyways, bye.